Hello, welcome to this week's headlines. I'm Lynn. We'll start off with highlights. First, the Pahang State Forestry Department has denied that the mudslide incident at the Kuala Lumpur-Karak Highway was caused by logging activities at the Lentang Forest Reserve. As the cleanup work is in progress on the affected areas, its director, Datuk Muhammad Pius Zimmerman, insisted that no logging activities have been conducted in the area and it may have just been caused by the slopes giving way. 2. After a meeting of the Special Task Force under the Health Ministry, DG of Health Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham says that e-cigarette liquid can only be supplied by licensed pharmacists and registered medical practitioners and transactions must be recorded. Meanwhile, the Malaysian Council for Tobacco Control and the Muslim Missionary Society of Selangor and Wilayah Persekutuan lodged a police report to urge the Health Ministry to reverse its decision not to ban vaping as it has had an adverse effect on society, they say. If you want to know a little bit more about that situation, check out last week's headlines. Next, Customs Department Deputy DG Subromaniam Tholasy said that judging from the number of complaints received, Malaysians are beginning to accept GST implementation. Imagine that! Judging from the complaints received, it might just be that we're too lazy to send complaints. But anyway, Domestic Trade, Cooperatives and Consumerism Minister Datuk Sri Hassan Malik said that Malaysians are slowly getting a grip of what the goods and services tax is all about due to the aggressive on-the-ground campaign by the government. And I'd like to add, by BFM, we've done our part. Now on to our main story, the Myanmar elections, or as I'd like to subtitle it, Aung San Suu Kyi. Yeah! Let's start with what we know so far. With about 47% of seats declared, the National League for Democracy, or the NLD, has taken over 90% of the vote, which is overwhelming. By Wednesday evening, the NLD had taken 256 seats across both houses of parliament, while the USDP, which has been in power in Myanmar since 2011, had 21. Myanmar elections, however, has no Muslim representatives in the parliament after many candidates were disqualified from running. For those who did run, none of them won any seats. We'll come back to that point about religion in a little bit, so just hold that thought. But first, was it really free and fair? Last Sunday's elections have been widely declared the country's freest and fairest elections. It's been touted as further proof of the military's willingness to lead the country further down the path to democracy. U Yetut, spokesperson to President Thein Sein, has even said that President Obama called Thein Sein to congratulate him and the government for successfully holding a historic, free and fair general election. And I only say this because I want to post a seriously hilarious picture showing Thein Sein on the phone. It's so real. The US State Department, however, has yet to confirm the phone call. Around 30 million people cast their votes in this, and as Alexander Lambsdorff, head of the EU's Election Observation Mission, said, the fact that losing USDP candidates are just accepting defeat is a good thing. But on the flip side, 1. Not all parliamentary seats were up for contesting, with 25% set aside for the military. 2. The constitution has some less than democratic clauses. And 3. Some people were excluded from the process entirely, namely the Rohingya. So that constitutional thing. Clause 59F stipulates that anyone with foreign children is ineligible to become president, and as Aung San Suu Kyi has 2 British sons, that rules her out. Now this seems to me a highly specific clause. I think it seems that way to everybody, but it's also a clause that's unlikely to change since the military holds veto over any constitutional changes. Despite that though, she's recently declared that she will be the country's de facto leader, acting above the president.
I have said if we are win and the NLD forms a government, I will be above the president. It's a very simple message.
Which is an interesting position for any person or any country to be in, because I really can't think of any other person in the world who could have the moral authority to say that without there being some sort of outcry. In any democracy, nobody should be above questioning, least of all someone who seems to be openly saying that there would be a puppet president. On balance though, a win for the NLD is a win for democracy. But is it a win for all in Burmese society? Seriously? We need to talk about the Rohingya, because they have in essence been denied their citizenship, their voting rights, and any representation in government. And, de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi has actually notably kept mostly silent on the issue of their human rights, saying only that it's something that needs to be dealt with very, very carefully. Which contrasts with the strong requests being made by Tun Kin, human rights activist and president of the Burmese Rohingya organization, who says that when Aung San Suu Kyi and the NLD finally attain their place at the table, the NLD should immediately humanize the policies and practices towards the 1.3 million Rohingya people, take concrete steps to end decades of systematic persecution, and restore the full citizenship and ethnic rights of the Rohingya. And I don't know how likely that is, because the fact is that when the new parliament sits, it's going to do so with no Muslim representatives at all, a fact that will likely continue the disenfranchisement Burmese Muslims face in their own country. What's next? Well, hopefully in the long run, a free and democratic country with fairness to all its citizens and in its governance. In the meantime, though, the road there is a winding one. But perhaps Myanmar can look to one of its neighbours, Indonesia. When President Suharto resigned in 1998, he'd actually governed Indonesia for more than 30 years. And in the years since, Indonesia has successfully transitioned from having the military wrapped around its national heart with its Dui Fungsi program to a strong, albeit flawed democracy, but that's, almost any country in the world. Slowly but surely, the military was gradually phased out of politics and business, and active military personnel are actually now banned from taking public office. Since the 2004 general elections, all members of the parliament and regional council must be elected so that the military no longer enjoys reserved seats in the legislature. So it can be done. That 25%, that can move. And now that I've done my whole downer, it's not gonna work routine, on a personal note, like many others, I've been thrilled with the results that have come in so far. It actually feels like change is happening in our lifetime, so congratulations, neighbor! Push on! And that is it from us this week on Headlines. Join us next week for more. BFM 89.9, what do I say at the end?